One.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to SJGames paint stream. I am Ben Williams. I am the guy who paints the minis here, also on the production artist, do other stuff. And today, because the Foes 2 and Bestiary campaign on Kickstarter has just begun, I have got some 3D printed Foes minis. If you guys haven't gone to check out that Kickstarter, you can go ahead and do it right now. It's posted, by our Steve Jackson Games account. So it is a combo, kind of a weird one. It's got STLs for use in fantasy games, and it's got the bestiary, which is just lots of weird creature lore, creature rules for the fantasy trip, but lots of cool info that could be used in other games possibly. Um, yeah, and there's a little bit of cross pollination too between the book and the minis. So a lot of the minis are creatures that are in the bestiary. And I got a little bit of a cold that I'm getting over, so hopefully my voice won't go out. Hopefully I won't do too much coughing and sneezing. But other than that, we can get on with it. What I brought today are 3 ghouls and 2 gargoyles. Like I said, those are from STLs in the Foes 2 campaign. Um, and what I have today, I think, ended up with me because they are some kind of rejects. I broke the fingers off of one of the ghouls and one of the gargoyles by accident, and one of the ghouls is missing his bone. And that's why they didn't end up as the ones pictured on the campaign, but they can still be useful here. I'm going to start with the ghouls. Ghouls are interesting. For those of you who know your creature lore, a ghoul is, I mean, I don't know, anybody in chat want to tell us the difference between a ghoul and a zombie?
We'll give him a few minutes.
Okay. So while that waits, ghouls or zombies or whatever, whenever you have like gross, creepy monsters like this, I feel like a lot of time the inclination for people, they just want to do like a pale pink and then, hit it with something, like this Agrax Earthshade right there. You can give it a dry brush and call it done. And that's like a perfectly acceptable way to get something like a ghoul. Start pale, wash it, dry brush it with another pale pink or yellow, even a pale gray. But there's a lot of room for color and stuff. Like I, as somebody who does mini painting professionally, I do spend a lot of time looking at Instagram and looking at what other people do. And some of the things that you notice with like gross minis that you wouldn't expect, whether it's zombies or whatever, a lot of time you see the artists who paint them work in some really vivid colors that you wouldn't expect. And it can really be anything. Greens, oranges, purples, yellows, blues, anything is kind of game. And so I was kind of going to go with that for the ghouls. Now, if you do look at the campaign, all the ghouls that I did are kind of a pale purple. Because ghoul, I mean, if the one thing you don't want a ghoul, I feel like, is like a darker skin tone. Like they all kind of look like they need to be like gross cave dwellers, very pale. They're never out in the sun. But from there, it could be blue. Really, I think any shade is kind of like good to go with. You could do a blue, a yellow, a green. I went purple there, so I was going to try some other stuff here. I was going to start with kind of like a really gross green. Um, so what I've got here, I'm going to start with the base. I'm going to use this stone gray. So this is kind of like a really uh, desaturated green or greenish gray. So I'm going to start off giving him a base coat of that. And this is one of the reasons why I brought so many, or I brought 5 anyway, minis with me today, because as I do these base coats, we're gonna have to hop back and forth, and while they dry. I'm trying to get his hair off. Before we started, I was joking with Brandon about like where do primer hairs come from. Like you can look at a model and not see anything. My theory is that they're just cobwebs and they're so thin they're invisible to the naked eye, but then you get that opaque primer on them and they're just not transparent anymore and it's like they appear out of nowhere. I think it's pretty good theory. That's what I'm going with right now. But they're still annoying. They still stick, and when you're trying to get something done, you're like, I already had to clean and prime and in some cases assemble this model, and now I got to pick a hair off of it. That's not what I want to be doing right now. That's not.
They pick stuff up when you walk outside.
Yeah, it could be that. I swear, like it happens when you when I seal them too. You know, you have models like they just came off your painting table, right? You were just painting them, you finally finish, you know, you sigh with relief, it's done, and then you take it out and you seal it, and there's freaking little hairs on it, little spider web hairs. I don't know. There's like some weird species of spider that just wants to live on my minis. All right, so like I said, we've got this nice desaturated gray, and you can see those of you who've done a lot of 3D printing might have noticed a little printing error. His knee, the layer that was a part of his knee has come loose. And again, that's why these were rejected for um, the official paint jobs and why they've ended up here with me on the stream. Um, so yeah, I'm sure experienced 3D printers will have had to deal with weird little separation issues like that. Kind of annoying, but it's one of the things you like to work with. Okay, and so then, while he's still wet, I'm gonna come in. I've got this AK camouflage green, and I'm gonna use that as a shade. So he's just gonna be this really putrid sort of shade of like a gross off green. So I'm gonna come in with that. We're gonna put it all along the bottom, try to get it in the recesses. We're gonna go under the chin. He's got this the part on the back of his head where it hangs over. We try to get it in between these ribs, down the spine, on the bottom, just everywhere we can. And just keep going at it.
No one in chat knows the difference between ghouls and zombies.
I'm sure someone does. They're just being shy.
Yeah,
Anyway, yeah, in case any of you don't know, and I'm sure if you're here, you probably do, ghouls are not undead, as it were. They are associated with the undead. And, you know, in movies and other settings, it's not at all uncommon to see ghouls along with the undead, but they are alive, and they're basically like the grossest humans ever. They are, in most cases, they are cannibals who either just stuck to cannibalism and instead became like so grotesque and debased that they've almost become their own subhuman species, like separate from humans. Or in some cases, you know, depending on the lore, it might be that their cannibalism caused them to be cursed. And so that's the reason why they're so gross and foul. And, you know, they're stuck that way. They're just making more ghouls. Um, the curse remains, and you get, you know, ghouls infesting crypts and mausoleums. Um,
Good time.
yeah. And, you know, it's a little different. It's all settings are different. You know, there might be like a disease involved. Sometimes you get ghoul looking things as a result of like vampirism not working out right, or
Like Renfield.
yeah, you get these kind of ghoulified things that are like vampire thralls that never got the full transformation, and so then they kind of get debased further and further until they're just super gross. And they never quite get to become vampires, and they're not human either. But yeah, there's a lot of it's just like everything, you know, with everything in pop culture, right? Zombies, sometimes like they're raised from the dead by an evil wizard, or sometimes it's a plague, or you know, whatever. There's lots of weird ways that you can make zombies, and ghouls are kind of like that too. Um, if you are a fantasy trip player and you like ghouls and you want ghouls in your campaign, they are in the bestiary book, and then there's even more info about them in the book of Unlife, which is one we did a few years ago. It was released during COVID. A lot of that stuff kind of like people didn't find out about it because it was never really in stores. But it's you can get it as a PDF or solid copy from our website. But yeah, that's the Book of Undeath. It's got Gould, if I remember correctly. Um, they're under a group of things called Thanatophiles, which aren't undead, but are like that's the chapter they're in. Not undead, but associated with undead things. Um, but yeah, it's got all sorts of weird stuff, ghosts and poltergeists and all sorts of weird stuff. Okay, let's do another ghoul. This is one of the ones whose fingers broke off. We've actually started using a new, less brittle resin because it was a little difficult to get the struts off of these sometimes. But they're making better resin all the time, so it
So
gets
new
easier and
resin
easier.
or new to us? Right?
I think it's more that it was like an existing resin that they've begun to manufacture more cheaply, so it doesn't like break the bank like it did. Trying to say, I guess I'll start with this is another AK paint, gray blue. We're gonna do a pale bluish ghoul. We're gonna start with the gray blue. And the other cool things about these models is they could also be used in like sci-fi RPGs. I mean, the most obvious use is like post-apocalyptic mutants, but I mean, maybe they're like some of the cooler sci-fi stories I've seen are like abandoned spaceships that just like drift,
Oh, like
but they never really like lose life support, and then like the occupants just like get grosser and grosser over the generations.
Pandemonium,
Pandorum.
Pandorum. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a cool movie. Definitely one to check out if you like horror and you're not too easily grossed out. It's kind of a wild story.
You came to the right place.
Yeah. But it's got space ghouls, really, doesn't it? I mean, I don't know what to call those
basically,
things.
yeah.
They're
like de-evolved human.
yeah. Well, they're devolved and also evolved. Like,
well, they've just changed.
yeah, they've become like,
taken their own path.
yeah, they kind of became apex predators to like better hunt humans, but they don't. I guess they don't really have like a culture so much anymore. I don't know. Anyway, it's a neat, gross, weird sci-fi flick.
Yeah, don't think about it too hard.
Yeah, yeah, it's one of those that's best when you don't think about it too hard. All right, now coming back in, I've got the AK Snow Blue. This is like a lighter pale blue. I'm gonna come in and try to add some highlights with that.
Just white highlights on snow blue.
It's the base is gray blue, and then the highlights are snow blue.
I see. Start spacing out, thinking about Pandora.
Yeah. What's the name of that guy? He was in that. He went to do a bunch of other stuff.
I have no idea. It's been so. I saw it when it came out.
Yeah.
It's been out for a while.
It was one of the last movies I bought on DVD, right? Because it was like before, basically, most people just stop buying DVDs and just like wait till it's streaming and stream it.
Yeah.
All right, now I've got some AK Oxford blue. Where's the tube? Here it is. Oh, they just call it Oxford. What is the blue? Oxford. Remember, I don't know why I remember, but I got it at a Hollywood that was going out of business and like selling everything. Who remembers those?
Hollywood Video?
Yeah, that's where I got Pandora. It probably would have been like 2010 or so.
So sorry for the spam, guys. I can't see the button to get rid of it.
People spamming in chat.
I know there's someone who showed up and all kinds of cool stuff.
All right, I guess we'll let him dry for a little while. How about, why not let's try a yellow ghoul? I will start. We've got deep yellow, ochre. Ochre's like a nice kind of like organic feeling yellow. Let's try that one. Oh, also another fantasy trip product that has ghouls is the Red Crypt, which is That one's cool because it's a solo adventure. It's like a choose your own adventure style thing. Um, it has pre-generated characters, or you can make your own. And there's a crypt full of gross ghouls. Spoiler alert. I mean, there's a ghoul on the cover, so probably a safe bet that ghouls will be involved in the story. Trying to think of some other cool facts while I paint this ghoul. I don't know. I could talk about painting yellow. Yellow,
Yeah, dude.
as everyone knows.
The hardest color to paint.
Yeah, I find it like comes and goes.
Or it can be the hardest.
It can be, yeah, it can be really tough. The trickiest part, and this isn't something that we're going to be as worried about here, trickiest part is getting a nice clean yellow that doesn't turn green. And if you've watched some streams I've been on in the past, my recommendation is to more or less cheat, as it were, and just don't even literally start with a yellow primer. Like, that's the easiest way to make sure it's not an issue.
Is that cheating? That's not
And
cheating.
then yeah,
It's part of painting.
right. It depends on who you ask, right? Because I'm saying the easiest way to paint yellow is to not do it, right? So it's kind of like cheating
But you did do
with primer.
with primer.
Yeah, the easiest way to paint yellow is to prime yellow.
Trying to get yellow over other colors.
And then I was gonna use the deep yellow, but let's not make her quite as pure of a yellow. Oh, and as somebody in the campaign pointed out, we have lady ghouls. These are not all male ghouls, because it's not like only dudes can be gross cannibals. I mean, come on. So yes, there are male and female ghouls to suit all your ghoul needs. Extra gross. There are actually, like, I think at least 3 ghoul children, because ghouls, they used to be people, so they do the things that people do, and then they get babies sometimes. And yep, those can be part of your game. I didn't bring one of those though. Maybe I should have. But yeah, go check out the campaign and scroll down a little bit to all the pictures of ghouls, and you can see 3 smaller ghouls. Maybe they're halfling ghouls, and I'm just morbid for thinking they're children. Because there are totally halflings in Fantasy Trip. Sure. Alright, so do we have a dry... So is ghoul number 1 dry yet? Yeah. Alright. Maybe I can go back and add some highlights. I was gonna go with the what do we call it? The greenish white. And for those of you who haven't seen one of paint streams before, these AK paints I use have extremely literal names. You got a super pale green, just call it greenish white.
I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, because I have been, other companies have sillier names, and they can
names
confuse you.
Related to lore, and you don't know that lore, it's good luck.
Right. I think the one that like really threw me with GW paints was they have one that's like Fenrisian gray, another one that's called the Fang, and like Fenris is the planet the space wolves are from, and like the Fang I think is the name of their big fortress.
Right.
And they're both kind of like, I mean, they're both a lot like this gray blue. And I totally got the wrong colors one day, because it's just like it's the gray blue, it's the grayish blue that is associated with space wolves in some way. So like I got the Fang, or I got the wrong one.
Right.
Although I guess I don't know what Oxford means within like the university, right?
As a color?
Yeah. I mean, they're using it as a dark blue. I don't know what that association is. All right, so a lot of times what I like to do is I'll do sort of like an overpainting first. So I go in there and I get the, I start by just doing some pretty bold strokes with the highlights. And then I'll come back in later as a next step, and I will mix the highlight in with the mid-tone a little bit. So in this case, remember that's the stone gray. And then you can kind of go back and sort of like blend it in a little bit. By going over the highlight and also the layer underneath, and that'll help it sort of transition some. And it's up to you how many of these layers you want to do and how much you want to try to wet blend or not. Wet blending is something I think most people can probably do it if it does take practice. Definitely a little bit anxiety provoking when you first try it. Smearing one color over a color that's already wet.
Chat says Oxford Blue is from the college. It's one of their colors.
All right then.
But I mean, did you say it was a GW paint?
No, this is an AK paint. That's one of the weird ones where it's not literal. But I guess it kind of is.
I guess
it's a little
literal.
Yeah.
It's a real world.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you could, like, they do have like dark blue, medium blue, light blue.
Right.
And they have like dark Prussian blue, light Prussian blue. So I guess you can only have so many like dark blues before, like, whatever, we're just gonna say Oxford. That's fine. That's fine. People understand. All right. So maybe for some shadow, I'm gonna try. I've got some wine red here, and I'm gonna mix a little bit of that in with some camouflage and a little bit of pure black. This happens to be scale 75 black, but that's just because they had it in store one time. I don't really know scale 75 colors that well, except to say that they've never really given me any problems. But I've only tried a few. I had to buy a full paint set once because I just wanted a black and white. So, and no other brand had either in stock. So I ended up with a scale 75 paint set. That's a little on the dark side, but hey, that's what's great about wet palettes, right? I can blend it through. So the reason why I'm going for this kind of reddish shade is because it'll make the green midtones feel a little more green. And also, since ghouls are still alive, having a little bit of like a warm tone somewhere will help. I mean, it basically helps them feel like they're still living. They've still got blood flowing under that gross ragged skin somewhere. So if you can, find a way to do that with the shading, then that should work. So just getting it in the muscle, you can get under the leg. It's this guy. I mean, I love these guys because they have all those great details you like in your weird, kind of gross mutants / zombies / undead things. They've got all these ragged folds of skin that you can really get into with a brush. And again, if you want to go the simpler route and just go for a wash, they should take a wash really well. That's how I did most of them.
All the crevices.
Yeah. Because there's like over 200 minis for Foes 2. Yeah, a lot more than our previous Foes. So
what else is there besides ghouls?
So ghouls, and of course, the gargoyles. There's a few mundane animals. There are 3 bears, 4 wolves, and 3 snakes. I think those might be the only animals. There are 12 slimes, and those are separated sort of into 4 types. And then there are 3 of each type. So there's like a weird one with like a bunch of lumpy spheres, and there's one that's more of like a weird paste. And there's one that sort of looks like it's bubbling or something and oozing. Depending on what we've unlocked, there may be lizards. We'll see. Hopefully that wasn't a stretch goal I wasn't supposed to give away. But I'm hoping we get to unlock it pretty quick.
Yeah, we've already passed the initial goal.
Yeah. Yeah, we hit the 5K initial goal when I left.
So I haven't
to head over
seen.
here.
Let's see.
I don't know how many stretch goals they put up when it went live, because sometimes we don't post them all.
First one is the 2 giant lizards. We haven't reached it yet,
Okay.
but we're close.
All right. So yeah. So those I guess are more mundane animals. So basically, like your Komodo dragons, or you can make a magic for your campaign. I'm not gonna stop them. They can be magical lizards. They could breathe fire. They could have like a basilisk there or something. Go crazy. You're the GM. You get to decide what all the monsters do. Oh, you know what? I just went into his eye sockets with red without thinking. A lot of times, what I like to do is kind of go with a blue in the eye sockets.
Why's that?
I don't know. It's just sort of like code for bad guy. Like you give them a deep blue for the sunken eyes, but it also anytime you have like a color that is only limited to one area on the model, your eye is usually is drawn there pretty quickly, and you want the eye to be drawn to the face anyway. So just kind of a cool trick to help with that. And the other thing, whenever you paint like a ghoul, it's has kind of a uniform color all across it. You want to try to find ways to mix that up wherever you can. With things like trolls or ogres, things that don't necessarily have, like, they don't, since they're not based on something in the real world, you don't feel like you have to give them like a uniform body color. Like a lot of times, like a troll, I'll like maybe do its hands and legs black, or like its face could be blue if the rest of it's purple or something like that. Because you don't want just a wall of the same color if you can help it. So what you can do, another thing you can do, now that I'm thinking about it, I got that wine red I was talking about earlier. You just thin that way down. You can kind of do a wash like on the elbows, so then they look kind of like raw. Cause this idiot's been like bumping around in a cave, like scraping up against the floor and stuff. Because he doesn't care. He's a gross ghoul. So you can add like red parts to make it look inflamed. Make sure it's a nice subtle wash. Because you want to try it, you want it to read as like distressed flesh,
Right.
rather than gore. So you need it to not look like it's just like blood pouring out of his mouth. And as for whether or not you want to do that with your ghouls, that's like definitely on brand for ghouls to have like super disgusting gore dripping. I don't know why, I just tend not to. I guess because when I'm painting, it's more about like bringing out the detail of the model. Although that gore can add a lot to the character. When I do put gore on things, it tends to be pretty sparing. But typically, I just don't bother.
Yeah, I like some good implied gore.
Yeah. Like a good place might just be like you put like, I'm gonna mix a little bit of black with this wine red for this. You could put like some like on the club, right?
Right.
And then it like implies that he's been like beating some poor person's head in with his club. So it's up to you can just like little streaks, some little spots, just to yeah. So that, I don't know, that's kind of like a cool little subtle touch. For example, since these guys are cave dwellers, a good way to do the eyes is normally you're doing like a if you're painting like human eyes, you would want to do like a white or a very pale color, and then do the black dot in the middle. But with cave dwelling things or like just evil things in general, you do the whole eye as black, and then try to do an even tinier spot of white, and then that's just like a white reflection. And even if it ends up being too big and kind of looks like a pupil, rather than like a little point of reflected light off of a black, solid black eye. It still looks kind of creepy, so it's like a win-win.
It's looking all white.
Yeah. Or just having it inverted, you know, it looks unnatural, so.
You get away with a lot on monsters.
Yeah. And then, you know, he really doesn't look green. The greens I picked are so desaturated, he kind of just looks gray, but that's fine. Let's give him a pale pinkish tongue. I'm gonna add a little bit of this orange to it. We don't want to just be like neon pink. But we can give him a couple teeth. I want to give the gargoyles a little love because we're probably getting close to like midpoint.
In about half an hour.
Yeah. So let's give the gargoyles a little love. So while I'm working on this guy, gargoyles, yeah. So gargoyles are another cool fantasy staple. And I'm gonna cough. Excuse me. Trying to do his teeth real quick before I move the gargoyle. Gargoyles are another cool fantasy staple, and you know the fantasy trip is no exception. I'm not doing a good job with these teeth, but I could always come back to those. Gargoyles in the fantasy trip are they're not in bestiary because they are not beasts. They are a humanoid race. So I don't know. Maybe we will do a book of humanoid races someday and they'll be in there. For now, if you think gargoyles are cool, there is a whole bunch of info on them in one of the issues of Hexagram. I'm thinking 4, but it might not be that far back. But you know, if you look at Warehouse 23, it should have a good enough description to tell you if there's gargoyles in one. But yeah, they're not evil or good. They're just like any other humanoid race. They're motivated by, you know, whatever. Survival, getting more stuff. And so they have a culture, they have a society, and you can actually play as a gargoyle in the game if you want. And I don't know if they can do magic. Maybe that's their deal. But yeah, they fly. They can eat rocks, so that's cool. You don't have to worry about your gargoyle starving. Now for the ones in, I probably should have started with the gargoyles first. For the ones that you can go look at in the Foes 2 Bestiary campaign, I went with sort of a standard gargoyle gray. Part of the reason why, you know, you got to do something like that, a lot of times like official paint jobs for things seem a little less inspired than something that somebody independently might do, because you know, when you're showing pictures of gargoyles, you want them to read as gargoyles like immediately. You want people to go, oh, those are gargoyles. So you don't want to paint them purple or blue, or people be like, oh, are those like ifrits or some other kind of weird demon or something? Like, no, you want to make it look like they're gargoyles. But since they are mineral creatures, like I feel like this is another thing where you can use whatever color you want. You know, you want to use like a turquoise, like maybe the gargoyles have been munching on copper and they've got some of that blue oxidation showing up in their skin. Or if they've been munching on like some iron-rich rock, it could be like a cool reddish brown. So again, there's all sorts of yeah. I mean, you could even have like a jet black one that's been like munching on obsidian or something, maybe. You know, sky's the limit. No gargoyle pun intended because it could fly. Okay. That would be a really bad pun. Okay. So in that measure of thing, I gotten this cavalry brown out. This is a Vallejo color cavalry brown. And it is just like a cool, or what I mean is a neat kind of warm desaturated brown. It's very like much like a rusty color. So I'm gonna start on this sort of rustyish gargoyle. And you know, maybe you have a super awesome GM and you're like out in some kind of red desert where all the rocks have like iron in them, so they're all kind of rusty looking. And the GM like paints up special rust red gargoyles to go with the local rocks because that's what they've been eating. It'd be really funny if that bestiary article, because I haven't read it, or the hexagram article about gargoyles was like gargoyles are always gray. It doesn't matter what they. I'm just gonna assume that it doesn't say that. But yeah, gargoyles are a pretty common sight in Seedry, which is the mystical plane, for lack of a better word, in which the fantasy trip is set. They've showed up in a few scenarios and a few of the adventures and stuff. And I mean, maybe you just want like to print one out and have it as a statue. There's always that too.
Right.
Like it's scenery. It's not an actual like participant, NPC or PC or otherwise. It's just a statue.
I don't know. These guys look a little bit more like living creatures.
Yeah, maybe like some sculptor was really inspired and did it, you know?
Yeah, that's true. If I was a sculptor, that's what I would make.
Really lifelike looking gargoyles.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's just the worst thing you can do. Somehow he missed all the paint.
That's
Like,
good.
hopefully everybody was looking away from the screen, but I just totally like dropped this guy. It always seems so
paint.
in the paint. In the paint.
In the wet palette.
I know how ridiculous it seems that you can just drop these things, but like when you're doing this and like rotating them,
We ever tried the all the little handle
I have
gizmos
not.
people made?
I have not. I say it.
so
I say
many
it
of
all the
them.
time. It's so hard to like develop new habits with something like this.
You
It
never
could.
got like where you'd attach it to cork or something like that.
Yeah, my friend actually gave me some recently. I still haven't used them.
Yeah, me neither. I'm way too old school. We didn't have anything like that.
But I should, because I drop minis so often, and every time I'm like, oh god, did something break off, we have to glue it back together. Or like worse, if it's something like this, where it's like kind of brittle, and then like a hand or like a finger breaks off, and you end up like spending the next 45 minutes digging around for it. Oh, that's the worst. Don't want
Yeah.
that.
You know, hate that.
Yep. All right. So this is our rusty gargoyle. I'm trying to think of what to shade him with. Let's just do black for now. Maybe, you know what? I'm gonna bust out some of this amethyst blue. I'm gonna mix that with a little black. See if that makes for a good shadow. Amethyst blue. It's not really blue. I would call it more of a purple, and it's the pigment and the binder have to separate them. So shake. All right, that's better.
Yeah, it's suggesting that gargoyles could be eating uranium.
Whoa.
They could be like glow in the dark.
Yeah.
Streaks of glow in the dark.
I mean,
I think
how do you know? Like, can you print with glow in the dark resin? Like, I feel like you could maybe put some powder in there, but then
ooh,
it might screw up. It might screw up the curing process.
I've seen people do it with the filament stuff. You can get glow in the dark filament. I don't know about resin. I bet you could because you can put glitter in there and stuff. You know?
Yeah.
So if you had some kind of glow in the dark stuff, it sounds really toxic to me, to tell you the truth. But
Oh, really? Maybe so. I just think of glow in the dark
I mean,
stuff
like
as not
powdered
being
glow in the dark.
Oh yeah, to
material,
breathe that.
I don't know.
Yeah. That
I don't
doesn't
know if I
sound
would
great.
trust having that in my house, but
Yeah.
anything that glows in the dark, kind of questionable.
I just think of all the children's toys I had growing up that were glow in the dark. So I'm like, it can't be toxic, right?
Right?
It's not like they would let you play with dangerous toys in the 80s.
Well, before that, all the houses were made with asbestos. So
Yeah.
it's all relative.
Yeah. And all the radon watches.
Oh yeah.
Radium watches.
What's that? The
So
story on the internet of the Boy Scout who like collected all the radium watches and made a little homemade nuclear reactor or atomic bomb or something.
sounds a little familiar.
Because they used to sell these science kits that would have stuff like that in them too,
Oh wow.
like really dangerous chemicals,
And
right?
just be like, watch yourselves, kids.
And just like, yeah, this is how we sort out future scientists.
There was this stuff called Fiesta where they had uranium dye in it because it's so close to uh, cadmium. Can also make a cool like reddish orange color, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm.
All right, so I'm starting like getting the darkest colors up under the wings because there's like an underhanging shadow, and then I'm just gonna try to get it under his again in all the shaded places. So under the torso where he's leaning down, under his mouth, under each arm, under the knees. Ugh, these little threads are driving me crazy, but they're not really significant enough to worry about right now. You know what? I brought my favorite painting rag.
Chad says that kid pulled material from a bunch of smoke detectors and made a nuclear pile.
Hmm. I missed a couple spots. Let's take care of that.
They're probably all on some kind of watch. I got news. We're all on the watch list already.
Yeah, I mean, we probably are, given the whole hacker thing that happened in the 90s. Like, just the employees, maybe not people watching the stream.
Oh, us here at the company?
Yeah. All right, so this other guy, he's going to be a turquoise gargoyle. So I'm going to start with, shockingly, turquoise.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, you think there's anybody left in the CIA that's holding a grudge?
I think it was the Secret Service that did it.
Oh.
Somewhere I have a box of old 5 1/4 or 5.5 inch floppies. Was it 5 1/4 inch floppy and 3.5 inch disc? They're so old that no one uses them anymore. But they got returned to us by the Secret Service.
Really?
Yeah.
Like after you started
because I work
working
in IT, they're like, "You guys want to hang on to this?" I was like, "What are we gonna do with these?"
So the Secret Service handles hacking? I thought they did like presidential protection and also counterfeiting.
Well, this was back in the 80s, right? Early 90s, maybe.
Yeah, I guess maybe they didn't know who
late
should.
80s.
Maybe they didn't know whose job it was to cover.
There are whole
hacking
organizations that didn't even exist back then.
Yeah.
We have a whole page about it on our website. Get details.
It's a funny story, and it made Steve such a folk hero for so many people. Not always the best people. And like I used to see so many conspiracy videos on YouTube about like the secret meetings and Illuminati cards, which, as we will all tell you, if there are any, nobody's told us. As far as we know, it's just like any fortune-telling thing, right? Like thousands and thousands of Illuminati cards were made, and they were all about mostly things tangential to real life. So a few of those things ended up happening.
Right.
And between that and the whole hacker Secret Service thing, it made a bunch of people think Steve, and of course our obsession with the Illuminati. Right. Yeah, so it made a lot of people think Steve really is an Illuminati. And again, if he is, he's playing it really close to the chest. He's never told any of us. We're not in that club. Sorry. And I know what you're thinking. If we were, that's what we'd be telling you anyway. And I guess you're right. But we are not. That's quite the tangent. I'm sure gargoyles must be related to the Illuminati in some way, right? Like everything ties back to the Illuminati in the end.
Actually.
Okay, so I've got a little bit more of that greenish white over here. gonna mix a little bit of the turquoise, and we're gonna try to go over that. This is a really bright turquoise. I think you really would want like a turquoise gargoyle that like matched the mineral, the semi-precious stone. You might want to look at pictures because it has, the actual stone has like some really cool marbling and stuff. It's got lots of other colors sort of threaded in it and some cool like striations and stuff. So just making him bright blue like this probably.
Do you spend a lot of time on Pinterest, Ben? Looking at reference material?
Some.
Whatever your place of choice is.
Yeah, it depends. Like it really, if I'm trying to base something off of something in real life, um, in my personal time, I've been painting a little bit more Age of Sigmar lately. So that's just kind of like squigs, trolls, goblins. I feel like no, I don't. I'm just gonna do whatever the heck I think looks cool. I'm not gonna worry about a reference. But um, when I was doing Bushido's like a samurai skirmish minis game, and I was always looking at images of kimonos, trying to find cool patterns that looked cool but didn't take too long to paint. And unfortunately, if you want to paint kimonos, I'm here to tell you there are none of those. They're all really complicated. They all take a really long time to paint. I mean, you can always just do like look at the really old cool ones where there's just like a few stripes here and there,
Yeah.
or maybe some diamonds. When I was painting Star Wars minis, because I wanted to do some really weird stuff with mine, I was looking for cyberpunk stuff. But,
Cyberpunk Star Wars?
yeah, that's kind of what I went with. It was a lot of fun. I don't know how cyberpunk it all looked, but it was the that Black Sun Syndicate stuff.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna get some more of this cavalry brown.
The Syndicate, like in the Stolo.
Yeah, I don't.
They have a different.
Yeah, Crimson Dawn, is that it? Is that a different thing?
Something like that.
I'm pretty sure all the Shadow Sun Syndicate stuff came from Clone Wars. Yeah.
As early as the Clone Wars?
The Clone Wars TV show, yeah. Definitely the Pikes.
Oh, the animated show?
Yeah.
Yeah, I caught up on Star Wars Rebels before Ahsoka came out, but trying to catch up on Clone Wars is gonna take way too long.
I'm not a fan of it. Like most people love it. I really don't like it.
Some of it's cool, but enough of it is not cool that I can't sit through that much of it.
Yeah, like honestly, for our stream, the sake of our stream, I would say that Star Wars might be more polarizing than politics. So I'm not really gonna get into what I didn't like about it.
Oh, but yeah, anyone can come at me and I'll fight them. Star Wars, I don't care.
But yeah, not such a fan. I mean, I think the whole fandom is like all over the place these days, right? Like everybody who likes Star Wars, there's at least one thing they're gonna hate within Star Wars.
Yeah, it's really hard to find someone that's like just all in on it.
Right, exactly. Like I like all of it. Obi-Wan,
it's
I
all
love
great.
it. I've watched it 4 times. Book of Boba Fett. Oh yeah, I've watched it over and over. Like no, yeah. Everybody's got something I'm not crazy about.
Mostly, it depends on how old you were when you first got exposed to it.
Yeah, that seems like a good measure.
And what was going on in Star Wars? It's like kids in the 90s and 2000s, they saw the prequels first, right?
In the 2000s,
yeah.
I think the episode 1 was 99, if I'm not mistaken.
The late 90s, yeah.
And then before that, though.
Oh no, late 90s, they were restoring all the original trilogy.
Yeah.
And they were changing that stuff too. So like you might think you like the original trilogy, but you saw it in the 90s, so you didn't see what people saw in the 80s, right? It's kind of different.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't really take stuff out. It's just all the stuff that they added.
They added a lot.
I thought it was all great when it came out, and now I have a more mixed opinion of it.
I would really like to be able to watch all of it.
Yeah. That's the real tragedy is you can't just watch the old versions if you
Right.
want.
Not easily.
And overall, I mean, overall, I think I would just say like it wasn't necessary, um, because everyone liked them already. So
Yeah.
I don't see why we need to do that.
Well, I guess George Lucas didn't like
Yeah,
it. So here we are. But generally, I like the new stuff. I like the like Mandalorian, and I like Ahsoka.
mm-hmm. Ahsoka's the only thing about the Clone Wars I think I did like.
Did you see the new show then?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Andor I think is still the coolest.
Andor is definitely that in Rogue One.
Yeah, Rogue One's pretty polarizing though.
Really?
Lots of people hate it.
What? Who
I
hates
love it. Lots of people I know, they're just like, where's a Jedi? Like, oh, bro.
I guess I could understand.
But that was because remember, Rogue One came out before Episode 7.
Yeah. That's
So for a lot of people, that was the first time Star Wars had been in the theaters for like 15 years, I think.
and it was the first thing Lucas didn't really have a big hand in.
Yeah. But so I think that's why a lot of people hit him the wrong way because they were like, I get my first Star Wars since 2003 and there's no lightsabers? Are you kidding me? Um,
There's a little bit at the end when Darth Vader shows
oh
up.
yeah. But I mean, I think a lot of us, I'm sure, liked it just because it felt like a more grown-up story than anything that had been done before. Because as cool as the Star Wars stuff is, even the original trilogy, it still feels like very good kids movie stuff, right? At least to me.
Yeah, I think most on average, most of this stuff is pretty great, especially for kids. Maybe it's a little violent. If you really go back and look at it, it's like there's a lot of like people getting their arms
Yeah, that's
cut off
true.
and getting shot, lots of people getting killed and stuff. And
Yeah, Jedi's do like murdering some
that's kind
people.
of not a great message to send to kids, but
Jedi's like Jedi's are really, really murderous. They love murdering.
it's guys with cool lightsabers. So what are you
Right,
gonna if you got a giant laser sword, what are you gonna do but chop some people up with it?
right. It's like when you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Exactly. The door's shut. Don't bother to try and hack it open. Just cut right through it.
Yeah. You leave your hacker rigs at home, cyberpunks. You've got a lightsaber, okay? What are you even doing? All right, so yeah, I'm still over here trying to make this gargoyle look like he's been eating entirely turquoise stone. That's what he's insisting on. I think the trick, I think I need a little bit more yellow. I think
Mm.
for the highlights, I think he's a little too blue. What I might end up with at this point is like looking like a super tarnished bronze statue that's just been sitting out in the elements for forever.
Is that what happens to bronze? It turns blue.
Bronze and copper.
Yeah,
It becomes really pale though.
I've seen copper do it. I guess bronze.
I feel like bronze, if anything, is even more greenish than copper.
You're probably right.
Although bronze, I mean, it's the same chemical oxidizing, so it should look about the same because tin doesn't oxidize, does it? Bronze is a mix of copper and tin.
I'm no geologist.
Okay, we need a blacksmith, really.
Yeah, I'm not a metallurgist or a geologist. I'm not a rock scientist. I know very little about gargoyles.
That's true. I mean, on Earth, gargoyles were made to look scary to scare away even scarier stuff, right? They were meant to terrify devils, look like even scarier devils, keep the devils away.
Right. It's looking good. I'm digging it.
Yeah, there's a lot of fun to be had painting these wings. Like we just like use a big brush and do streaks and kind of let it blend with wet paint you've already got there.
That says copper oxidizes to green like the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And bronze and brass just have different amounts of tin added. Brass has more tin. It's a little more brittle, but it doesn't corrode as badly. If memory serves. And I don't know, maybe would it be possible, I guess? If gargoyles are things that eat rocks, but they just eat metal, could there be like an iron gargoyle? I don't really recall how they fly. Like maybe the flying part is actually like a spell they cast on themselves or something.
Yeah, they're magical, right?
Yeah.
Animated rock.
Yeah.
I would think it doesn't necessarily have to follow the laws of physics. Because it's already not, it's already animated. It's already animated. It's fun stuff to think about, especially if you're the GM.
Yeah. These guys are also really good with for washes because they've got so many lumpy bumps all over them. And I feel like that would really be the best way to deal with his mouth right now. And yeah, I actually do use washes a lot. A lot of people think of them as just like only for quick stuff, but they're really helpful for stuff like this where you've got like a bunch of teeth. Getting them thinned down properly can be kind of tricky. GW washes come pretty thick by nature. Sometimes it's so thick that if you go for fine detail, you might end up with the whole area just looking like it's the uniform brown rather than just the recesses.
Or it can get gummy.
Yeah, if it gets old, it'll get gummy. So you kind of have to water it down pretty frequently. All right, so we got kind of our turquoise gargoyle going on. This guy's still frying. Maybe we can add a little bit more to our pale blue ghoul before.
Yeah, we've hit the hour mark.
So. Oh, have we?
Yep.
Well, maybe we should start wrapping up then. How's everybody doing? Anybody got any questions?
Oh, just some chitter chatter about Star Wars and winning lightsabers.
All good stuff, I hope.
Very good stuff.
It's so easy to go off topic on these things, but it inevitably happens. We have never done one where we just.
That's what happens when I'm painting, right?
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time listening to Welcome to Night Vale.
I should listen to that.
Any kind of like radio show where it's just slightly bizarre.
Yeah.
Stuff to think about while you're putting paint down.
I should check that out. Well, I mean, is it fictional or is it?
Yeah, it's kind of from the man. I'm not even sure if I got the name right at this point. It's been a while since I listened to it. It's like a fictional radio station in this town of Night Vale, and all this weird stuff happens there. It's all just theater of the mind kind of stuff.
Definitely sounds interesting.
And it's got kind of a Twin Peaks, kind of X-Files type vibe of like Maybe there's weird portals to other dimensions. Maybe there's demons. Maybe there's aliens. It's like all kind of up in the air. As
Maybe
to what
Donnie
exactly
Darko will come through in his rabbit suit.
what's going on. Who knows?
Cool. Well, yeah, I hope you guys learned something, got something cool out of that. And if not, we did chat about some silly stuff for a little while. But yeah, thanks for watching. And again, if you are interested in STL miniatures or beast and monster lore for RPGs, go check out the Foes 2 and Bestiary Kickstarter, which is live right now.
Yeah, I'll put a link in the chat. And we're also at PAX Unplugged this weekend.
Oh yeah,
At booth 2746. So go by. That's where Jimmy is this weekend.
And that's up in
you can meet him
Boston still, right?
No idea where it is. Probably.
I went to the first one, or maybe it was. No, I think it's Philly.
I think it's
Philly?
Philadelphia.
Yeah, it's Philly. Regular PAX is Boston.
I think by now, if you don't have tickets, you probably weren't going to go. So you probably
Yes.
already know where it is. And if you are going, stop by and see our booth. Say hi to Jimmy for us.
Somebody would probably give you a fantasy trip demo if you've never played before.
They could.
All right. Well, yeah. Thanks a lot, everyone. I think that's gonna do it for us. So thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in a month or so.